Hi, I'm Bukeka. I'm the B.
And I'm Enolia, and I'm the E.
Together, we are Be Empowered.
The universe is calling, calling, calling. The universe is calling me to be. It's calling me to listen more, talk less, and hold the light. The universe is calling me to be.
We believe that deep in our souls, we hold conversations, but for whatever reasons, we do not always take the opportunity to speak from our hearts.
We want you to imagine that you're sitting right here with us now, sipping a cup of tea or coffee at our dining room table, and we're having that conversation. You know, the one that encourages, inspires, and motivates you to the infinite possibilities that your life has to offer.
Let us help you to expand your imagination, to create your beautiful dream into reality. It starts right here and right now, because the universe is calling you to be.
The universe is calling me to be. The universe is calling, calling. The universe is calling me to be. It's calling me, calling me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Be Empowered with my great friend Enolia. My name is Bukeka, and boy, do we have a wonderful treat for you. As you can tell, we are live, and this experience is one that we have been so excited to share with you. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and ask Enolia to introduce herself and to please introduce our very special guest.
So, hello everyone, this is Enolia. So glad to be here with you live. You know, we only have a few episodes that we feel that it is important not to just hear the voice but see the beautiful faces. And who we have with us this evening is such a dear and special guest to me because she is the antithesis of empowerment. So we want to introduce you to Julliet Makapila. Julliet, we are so grateful to have you on, and I'm going to just say one word about Julliet, and then I want everything else to just be unveiled. And Julliet is a candidate for the president of Kenya, and we are so excited to have you. And Julliet, when I heard this, the first thing I wanted to know was, I see you, my sister, elevated. We met on the speakers unit. We met just doing women's empowerment speakers unit, crossing over with G100 Women's Economic Forum and everything else. With, you know, Bukeka saw you. We've seen each other and we pass each other by, and we're all women of empowerment. But there is a story to be heard about just coming to a decision. And that's the story we would love for you to just start us off with, in terms of how, first of all, where are you based? What happened within life besides the fact that you are this dynamic speaker that would want you to embark to do more?
First of all, I'm blessed, and greetings to everybody here today. Thank you so much to the women and to the Empowered Women program here. I'm blessed to even just be here, because without programs like this, we're not able to share our stories. So just to be here, I want to just bring in the warmth around the world, because Bukeka, I just want to appreciate you with our love and the gift of solidarity amongst women. And Enolia, thank you for connecting us with this beautiful, amazing lady. And for me, that is really special, because I believe in great change makers. And thank you for the book as well that attracted me to look at the things you talk about. So what is my story really? My story is, first of all, can I say, I love story of the people of Africa. And so I love to tell a story of the people of Africa, hence the reason I just want this beautiful, spirit of Africa, so that I could bring the people of Africa out. So what made me want to stand is the story of love. When you love a nation, you love to respect that nation. So I just feel that my story about love and looking at how Africa, and not necessarily Kenya, is affecting us and around the world. So I wanted to be able to also tell the story of the people. I just look at the stories that are told sometimes, and sometimes they don't really reflect what is really happening around Africa. So being in this program, I want to empower every single to hear the voices of women, and different women's from across the world again. Being a candidate for president of Kenya, or any person going into president, it is something that you think about. You don't just wake up. So for many years, I felt that I wanted to be this Madam President and tell the people of Kenya that we are here to make a change. And I actually want to also add, not just change, but transformation and transformation that can align with what is missing. So my story begins from the thoughtfulness of what is missing. And that missing piece is women around Africa are not really seen in presidential position. So if you think about it, very few women go into politics, and there must be this kind of gap. So I thought, my background is in social sciences, and I thought, what is really happening? So I think that also creates the buzz in me, if I may say so. So that buzz where you want to bring it out for not just myself, but for other women, because I believe that women are the home of community development. And when the agenda of women, when the women rights are supported, I believe that we are able to transform our nations. My story begins with thoughtfulness, with respect, with being empowered while I've been in United Kingdom. And if you think about standing in abroad, and then you come back home and you want to now share the experiences that you've learned, but also invest in our hometowns, I want to give back. I want to ensure that we're known, and so that's more like it. I didn't start my politics in UK. I started my politics as a young girl, and my story as a young girl is, and why I say that, because some people will say, but you're a young girl. I always say I had conversation with my father, newspaper, which they called Weekly Review, and I would want him to tell me, why are you reading Weekly Review? And that was when I was in Kenya as a young girl, because I took interest in the political paper, or which it's equivalent to sort of like in London or UK, the weekly, the Guardian newspaper or the Financial Times. So when I really think back, I think my interest in politics started as a young girl. And then there's this incident as well, where the former president of Kenya, as a young girl, because I was a girl guide, greeted me. Yes, when the president greeted me, I remember coming home that day, and I was the first girl at school, and as girls, you have to salute for your president as they pass in a line. So as I greeted the president, and the president stood in front of me and went like that.
I was thinking about you as a little girl, and then having to make that, or having made that decision at that age. What was that? So I have two parts to the question. what was the age that you really started to think as a little girl,
Yeah.
that this might be, this would be your desire as an adult? And then two, how has that knowing or knowingness all that time carved your experiences towards that end, towards your education, towards the specialty that you're in social sciences? What were some of the things kind of that you can think back along the way that really evolved from that moment that you said, this is what I'd like to do?
Thank you for that question. So basically, when you think of being a leader, you begin to know inside yourself that actually you begin to see what qualities of a leader is expected of you. So somehow you begin to, after I've just said to you, I was a girl guide. So that moment when the president of Kenya greeted me, I remember the beautiful vibration, as I would put it, and I knew from them that yes, I would love to be the next president of Kenya. From that moment that I refused to wash my hand. So when that moment happened, and I remember the kind of, it took 3 days or 4 days to refuse, I would literally refuse to wash my hands. So it was like, Mom, you're not bathing me, bath everywhere else, but my hands, which had been greeted, that was special to me. And I was now eating with a fork and knife because I was like, I had graduated to the next level, and that's all I was singing to my mom and my dad.
Right.
And I think that leadership is instilled in you as you grow up, and that shows in my record.
A lot of times we think that school, education are the things that have to give us the leadership, but I'll just share with you that, my sister and I are like, we're 15 years apart, right? So I grew up in a house full of adults, right? So it's just my sister and I and my parents. And my parents, of course, are going to treat you like an adult, right? They're nothing but adults in the house. And my sister is grown. So by the time I'm 8, 9, she's in her 20s. So there I am in a house full of adults. And, because I'm sitting here listening to you going, when did I first hear my voice and have my voice? And I realized that I first had my voice because I had no choice but to raise my stature to speak like an adult, because I was in a house full of adults and they would not tolerate childlike silliness, like childlike behavior to engage in the conversation, childlike behavior to say something non-intelligent in the midst of a conversation. Right. And so that really developed my leadership, because in order to engage, in order to hear my voice heard, in order to make sure that I was listened to, I had to make sense. I had to be able to interject appropriately. A house full of adults. And it's like, okay, well, wow, I didn't realize it, but I'm sitting here listening to you and going, okay, that's when I knew I was a leader, right then and there, because I could engage and interject with a house full of adults. And Bukeka, I think with your family background, it's got to be similar with social activists, correct?
It is similar. And, my sister and I are 7 years apart. So there's a couple of things where you find yourself in an elevated level of maturity just from that alone. My sister would often call me Mama Bukeka, right? And so there was that part of where I needed to care for her. But then there was also the era and the time for which this was occurring. So I was born in 1962, and I was born in Pontiac, Michigan, which is a suburb, or not necessarily a suburb, but it's less than an hour away of the Detroit metropolitan area. So it's a big metropolitan area. And at the time, my father was very involved in the civil rights, the development of civil rights offices across the country. He was the head of the civil rights office for Detroit, Michigan, and Battle Creek, Michigan. And so my world, because my parents actually named me Gretchen when I was born. So another part of the story that kind of ties to what you're saying in terms of something within you knowing at a young age. We were surrounded with people from all over the world. I began to listen to these different names and go, Gretchen? Who is this Gretchen person? I want one of those names. So my father and mother, they were very supportive in me finding a name that I wanted. And I wanted a book. I picked it from a book of African names. So that whole era really spurred a lot of natural leadership, because as a young girl, I was out marching with my parents. I had the autonomy to think, this doesn't sound like who I am. I want something that is in alignment with more of who I am. And then the fact that, like I said, my sister came into the picture, and it was very important for me to make sure that she came in the world with a name that was going to be meaningful. And so my mother and I used to argue about who actually named my sister. I will always claim it. But her name is Makeda Liana. It really is very powerful to get a sense of who you are very young. And then you might not even notice until you're an adult of how that one decision, that one knowingness takes you to a whole trajectory of life that stems from that very moment.
Yeah, when I think about it, I'm looking at it as, how did I get into public speaking? How did I get into it? And I think that God blesses us with certain gifts. And I've always, like when I was in high school, I did extemporaneous public speaking. I've always liked to speak. I've always liked to tell stories. And I think it's because my mom told stories. And my mom was this great storyteller. I used to wait for her to get home from work. She worked midnight to 7 a.m., the graveyard shift from the hospital. And she always told us the stories about the patients that she was dealing with. She worked in ICU, the in-coronary unit, and heart patients. And then because they were older, typically, every once in a while it would be younger, but she had stories to tell about their lives, stories to tell about what they did or how they handled something or how they responded to something that was just so funny, and all of that shapes us, and so when you think about it, how did you fall into that how did both of you, how did you, Bukeka, how did you, Julliet, fall into that public speaking where you knew that you had to be front and center and you just had to have that conversation with people? I don't care who it was. You just had to have that conversation.
Back home, as a little girl, I was known as a chatterbox, and I still am, I think. So, and I think because I love to refer as a girl guide, you're taught to help. I loved writing poetry from a young girl. I always performed what we call mashairi. Mashairi, it's a Swahili, it's like poetry in Swahili. So I enjoyed things like that. So how did I get into public speaking? When I think back, when I connected as a little girl, it's obviously, if I'm performing right all the way to national level, then that's public speaking in itself. I'm full of a room where people are watching me and clapping me, and I'm competing with other intercontinental schools. So public speaking for me, I think, started as a young girl again, but I never ever thought about it until probably right now. But I think I then later on, just like yourself, I enjoyed more grown-up talks. I enjoyed conversations that were challenging my mind in terms of what I wanted to understand. I love world history. So I enjoyed history as a subject, and I was really doing well in history, Swahili. So public speaking for me, I think I enjoyed watching. At the time in Kenya, we had what they call VOK, so Voice of Kenya. So I enjoyed watching people who presented at the national TV. So I think I developed my kind of public speaking at home because I was the eldest girl of my mom. And if children are coming to your mom, and your mom as well might be away, and they finish school and they're stopping on weekends, all the kids come in. Then I've got to take charge of the other children. So otherwise, my mommy will not be also impressed if things are not the way they're meant to be. So I decided to go to university and study consumer studies and mass communication. At that particular time, I was working in College of Northeast London. One day, the teachers came in and they said, "We've watched you grow. We've watched you to, and we think that you have so much to give." And so the college used to offer incentives or benefits in education. And or there was a decision that was made in, if you worked there, you could have some kind of education. So it was in form of a voucher. And I looked at it and, while I was serving a cheddar cheese or baguette or tea, they came in and said, "There you go, Julliet. Next time I come in, you must pass your education." And so they wouldn't leave me alone. Put it this way, I had to see them every single day. So my homework had to be done. As much as busy as I was, I had to educate myself. And I had to then go into career advice. And the career advice was asking me questions. And I'll never forget, her name was May, actually. So she said to me, "Come to the career advice after you finish your work. We'll be waiting for you." And so I go in and they ask me, "What would you like to do?" And so here you go. Tick, 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 tick. Do you love talking to people? Yes. Do you love doing this? Oh, yes. Do you love this? Oh, no. And so as I was doing that exercise, she goes in, "Right, for you to get from point A to B to C, you've got to do this." And what did I want to do that time? I wanted to be a journalist. So if I wanted to be a journalist, then I needed to be doing mass communication and consumer studies. So we ended up in that pathway. I can see there was a future. I decide I'm going to add on top of that and specialize. So I decided that I'm going to go to a college. And when I went to the college, went to Fulham, and I went to specifically study public speaking. Remember, in London, English is not my first language. Everybody else's accent is English. So it's my accent is like Africans, So I'm sitting down there with big public speakers in that room. And so this is now college. So it's only recently that I'm looking, but that's where I really did my public speaking. So they were teaching us the breathing exercise, the vocal, the everything that you can think about. But it was so specialized in all there. Yeah.
I think it goes back to the name again, because yes. The name was there. At 6 years old, I changed it. And then as an adult, when people started to ask, I would tell the story. Then it began to evolve each time. So they'd say, "Well, tell us about your parents. Well, tell us about, what that meant for you. How did it inspire you? What did the whole meaning of the civil rights movement mean to you as a little girl?" So I had to start telling the story. And that's essentially how I came into being a public speaker, because one, I knew, it was obvious that the story was important. But the other thing that aided me in the field was singing. My mother was a coloratura soprano, and so I quickly picked up that gift because she was right there to coach me along the way, sitting next to her in the car or whatever. And so as I became acclimated to becoming a songwriter, then the topics of those songs were all inspirational. When I first started songwriting, it was all about, you know, the he loves me, she, you know, I love him, we're going to be together forever, or why don't you love me, and why doesn't he, you know, that whole thing. That's the era that I grew up in, Detroit, Motown, right there. You know, every single song that you hear on Motown at that time was about, you know, ooh, baby, baby, you get down, my baby love, right? I'm sure I have no license to do that right now, but anyway, it wasn't long enough for them to catch anything. But anyway, I swore that when I started writing that kind of music, you know, with some early bands, and it just didn't fill my soul, it didn't fill my spirit. And so then when I started to actually communicate with spirit, you know, what is it that you want to come from me? And all of a sudden these lyrics appeared. I am worthy of love, positivity, agape love, heart's desire, one song after another, after another, after another. So as I began to speak more about who I was in the world and marry that with these amazing titles and being able to weave the songs in and out of these presentations, that took on its own career path, essentially. But you know, it wasn't ever, never, ever that I thought I was going to be a singer-songwriter. Guess what I wanted to be, Juliet? A journalist. When he said that, I was like,
Oh
yeah,
wow,
that sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
Yes. I have to add that that is really inspiring because I always acted, you know, when, I was in the drama, you know, primary school, I was in the drama, you know, like I acted, and while we acted, I always practice, you know, I'm reading news, you know, like I'm there. So you children, you know, good, you know, matangazaji, mimi ni mtangazaji wa Afrika, you know, like you really there, you know. So yeah, so that is amazing, Bukeka. That's amazing.
And you know, I'm sitting here listening to both of you, and
Yes.
what I'm realizing is that, you know, all of us, we enter into this world, right? Especially women of Africa, especially, you know, women of color, right? And there's always a defining moment within our lives when we realize that we have to exercise our own empowerment,
Yeah.
you know, and that we have to dig deep inside and say, you know, if I don't stand up for this, no one's going to stand up for me, and nobody's going to do it for me. I have to dig deep. You know, I can think of several times when I had to do that, and see what I've encountered in Africa, and I'm going to go back to when I actually had to do that, but when I've encountered in Africa is I found that some of those moments haven't happened for women in Africa.
Yeah.
They have not had to dig deep to be so passionate or love something so much that they don't care what they have to give up in order to stand in that authenticity or stand to fight for it enough, you know. And when it really hit home for me, there was a few times it hit home for me. One of the times I can think that it hit home for me is that I remember bringing home my firstborn, Nico. And, you know, here I am, I'm a brand new mother. My husband at the time was at work, and he had like this rash, this diaper rash. And I went to the pediatric center where they're supposed to take care of him. The nurse sees me, she goes, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I think he has a really bad diaper rash, blah, blah, blah." And she goes, "Oh, go home. You're just a new mom. Just a new mom. He'll be fine, blah, 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 blah." And, you know, being a new mother, never having to stand there and fight for something before, like on behalf of a child, right? So I got in the car, and I started driving away, and I got about 4 or 5 blocks away, and I said, "The hell with this. This is my son.
That's right.
are you kidding me? And I got back out and, I turned around, I got back out of the car, I took him out of the car, I sat there at the counter and she goes, "Oh, you're back." And I said, "You're damn right I'm back. And you're going to go get the doctor because you're not one. And so you're not going to tell me and dismiss me and tell me that what's going on with my son isn't bad. I'm going to hear it from a doctor after it's being seen, and I'm not going anywhere until I am seen." And I had to demand it, and it was like a defining moment that it was like if I didn't do something, I didn't realize that with children, you are the only advocate
Yeah,
between their life and their death. I mean,
that is
literally.
true.
And so it was like I had to dig deep and I had to find that empowerment. There are other times when I was in my early 20s where I had to dig deep and find that empowerment.
There's so many times when you think back on times where you thought, how could I have done this better? What could I've done differently? And that is because we do not necessarily grow up with the idea of being an empowered being.
Yes.
And so as you go through life and then you become stronger, or you find yourselves in arenas, such as we are today, and you go through life and you think, wow, this was in me all along. And the sad part is that some women never find that, or they get to a part in their lives when they feel it, but they don't necessarily feel like they have the time, maybe not even the physicality any longer to really execute on those things. So it may come out in different ways. So, the fact that we are in an era right now where there are so many women who have embraced their femininity, embraced their womanhood, embraced their feminine power, is incredible. And I'm glad, so grateful to be in that space. I can literally say that it's probably, well, I'll tell you when it really started for me. I'm going to go back to Africa. In 2011, I went to South Africa. I was there for almost 30 days. And the day that I came back was Thanksgiving Eve, I believe it was. Nonetheless, it was one of those days prior to the big sale that's going to happen the next day. And I hadn't watched television in 3 weeks. I was totally in bliss by the history, the connection with African people, that it didn't even dawn on me. I didn't miss it at all. So I come home. Obviously, in Kansas, November is very cold, which we know in South Africa, it's very hot, right? So I turn on the television just to check the weather. And the first thing that I saw was this rush of people almost stampeding over each other because of the Black Friday sale. And it jarred my consciousness. I immediately turned it off. And that was like the very first physical sign that said, you are not the same person that you were before. And anything that is unlike the majesty and power of what you just experienced for the last 3 weeks must go away. It can no longer be. And so that 2011 trip to South Africa was a huge change in my life. And I think that's when I really began. Okay, we're only talking 11 years ago, but that's when I truly feel like I began the process of feeling empowered and choosing to have the life that I wanted based on my terms and not other individuals.
And I'm going to just interject this, and I want to go to Julliet because this is really important. We want women to hear your story. But mine, and Julliet, I shared this with you before, was when I walked across the East and West Savo parks of Kenya, 100 miles with the Maasai. And bonding with that motherland and being there with the motherland and embracing it and being in symbiosis and in harmony with the animals there, with the tribe, with just everything, everything. My life shifted on that land. The mother just, and then I had also shared this with you too, is that I knew that I was Luya tribe, so I also knew that I was on my mother's tribe's land.
Mm.
And so it was like, I'm home. I'm home, and this is what home is supposed to feel like, you know? So,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
And thank you. Thank you for choosing to come to Kenya. You know, my uncle worked in a Voi National Park. I think he used to tell me Savo National Park. Let me appreciate my uncle, because if he's watching, hopefully one day he will remember that I remembered. And let me say also, thank you for that uncle, because as a child, he gave me my first red watch, which was a quartz. So when I hear Savo National Park, I just remember the red watch that he gave me. But having said that, as you were both talking, you know, I told you earlier on that the children used to come to, you know, I'll take you a little bit back because it's important, because you wanted to come to Africa. But as a child, I wanted to go to America, and I wanted to go to the West because I wanted to tell the stories of people of Africa. And so I'm taking you back to the scenario of the kids. You know, I told you that we had this black and white TV, and it was so many inches, maybe 28 inches or 24 inches, but it was the biggest in the homestead. So the reason for that was all the kids would sit around, and at that time there was a program that for girls. It was called Bionic Woman. So as I saw Bionic Woman, I think because of all the American, or at the time, I didn't even know, I still don't, probably can't remember, but it was really exciting. And so I used to wonder as a girl, what is it like on the other side? You know, while we are in Africa, and I'm seeing those kind of clips while I'm in Kenya now. So for me, it was always an interesting sort of like divine, like I really want to go to these beaches, you know. At the time, I knew about Mombasa where we have all this beach, but I wanted to see, you know, neighbor. There's another one which was called Neighbors. So I only now know it came from Australia. But whenever you're there, everything is United States or United Kingdom. So those are the two things that you know. And in history, UK, you know, you're being taught about this crumble of Africa. So I'm busy thinking, and who are these people? And you know, so for me, so while people were wanting to come to Africa, I'm also busy wanting to explore. So, and that's as a child, you see. So I just had to, my flow had to tell you that. And so whenever I think about telling the story, I also told you that I wanted to be a journalist. And the reason for me wanting to so much want to tell their story was because I enjoyed to, you know, I would sit, you know, where we come from, where my mom lives in, like one side is really poor, you know, like you can really see it's not really okay. But the other side is really lovely. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, but why is this area? We just sort of like, it's like a main road dividing us. That area looks like it's really rough, and this other side is upgoing. So what's really going on? And I started asking those questions while I was actually a young girl in Enolia and Bukeka. And so for me, I wanted to be able to express. So you would find me sort of like walking down the road, sitting down and, you know, and helping the mothers in the market, listening to their stories. What is it like for them to allow us to go to school? And again, I connect that with Girl Guide. So I want to tell their stories. I want to sort of like explain what is going on and what are they saying. And I feel energized beautifully here. So I want to say to you that I then started the program as a little girl, which I called it Smile. As a little girl, I called my little project Smile, because I wanted to to make every mother, in the market to smile, because they've had a long day. They've literally been sitting down there and selling their fruits and vegetables. And so I'm sitting down there and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So I go back home and I say, Mom, I told you I didn't really, I never really enjoyed education, especially mathematics. I didn't like maths. I don't know. My mom says to me, well, the only thing you've got to promise me is you've got to learn how to count your money. So that's what my mom said to me. And so she said to me, and the way we're going to do that is you must do something that you really enjoy doing. So I think she grasped the fact that I do well when I'm doing my own little thing. So she says to me, in order for us to, not fall out in homework. So I chose this little project and I called it Smile. And I've written a story about my smile on a women's, on the 8th, we normally celebrate Happy Women's Day, International Women's Day on the 8th. So I've written something behind that. So the story is like, I wanted these women, mothers in the village to really tell their stories. And so here I am as a girl, I'm going to the market, not because we are poor, but I'm just doing a hobby again. So I decided that my project, which was for Smile, I would sell what you call mandazi. Mandazi is like little dumplings. So for me, it was a reward as a girl, giving my dumplings to every single mother. So I'm now learning how to cook. And and also I want the business. So my mom is exchanging that, okay, I'm giving you how many hours, and we have to agree between what time I'm allowed out, between, that sort of, so you can just imagine me cooking my dumplings, taking them to the market. My main area is what you would now call CSR, which is corporate social responsibility. But mine is just to give them. But I'm exchanging it because I need to buy my flour for the next day. So without realizing that I'm also now learning my business skills. But I'm just literally saying, right, ma'am, I'm going to take these dumplings, but we call them mandazis, to the mothers, because every mother has to smile, and that's what I want to do. So I rarely share that story, but also that inspired me to be a journalist, because I feel that their stories were not being told. And every single time I went home, what was I really looking for? I was looking for girls that were not actually going to school. Because I remember one of the conversations that has a girl guide, they would tell us, if you see something that is not right, you need to tell us. But actually, I was also engaging with grown-up talks, as you were speaking in earlier, that just came into my mind. And so I was also looking out for young girls, if they didn't go to school, what was the reason they didn't go to school, as I gave them their smile. And so this kind of exchanges were happening in the market, and I really enjoyed the market life. I really enjoyed the little town that we had, Bukeka. And so for me, that takes me back to why I really wanted to be a journalist. And so I wanted to tell the stories of the mothers, social inequalities, the hardworking mothers, of how they have to work so hard. I wanted to tell the stories of young girls who hadn't been to school because maybe they didn't have school fees. I wanted to tell the stories of maybe the diseases that were affecting the mothers about that time. I wanted to tell the stories of maybe there was no water, or maybe what the mothers were, the women were talking about. I wanted to explain about what it is a market life looked like. And I also wanted the mothers to really smile and be happy for raising great children in our village. So I became this chat, I told you I liked chatting. So in fact, if you came to our village on that time, they said I talk too much because that is what I did. I was literally like an outgoing fun girl, and I was known to be that way. So that's how I was learning my mathematics, because mom would give me money, and then out of that exchanging of money, I needed to explain to her how I minus the bill, the calculations, and then I needed to show her what profit I was making as well at the end of my shift, as she called it. And I needed to also learn that her kitchen was her kitchen. So I needed to learn how to clean her kitchen and make sure that I returned her kitchen and the space as I found it. So I think those little responsibilities that come in from a child, Enolia, that really helped me to shape me and taking responsibility from a young girl. And it was there again, I began my business skills, my entrepreneurship skills. So when I think back, did I really start business in London? The answer is actually no. I actually started business when I was a young girl at that Smile project, which I only did it as a hobby actually, because it is something that I just want that I was exchanging with my mommy. I was just exchanging because of mathematics, really, because I didn't like maths.
This is so beautiful, because what I really want to impress upon our audience is
Yeah,
that we are just real women
yeah,
coming from different walks of life.
yeah,
People, will say, oh, well, this person has to be elevated to here in order to
yeah,
make a decision that you've made in your
yeah,
life, a
yeah,
courageous one that you have. And
yes,
I just, I want to impress upon women that we are our gifts. And the whole
yeah,
thing is that we just choose not to hide our gifts. Okay? Our gift of oration, our gift of having courage, our gift of being able to elevate someone else in lieu of ourselves, being
yeah,
able to elevate ourselves in lieu of everyone else. I mean, we are our gifts and we are our strengths. And when we dig deep within ourselves to find it within ourselves, to stand up for what we believe in and who we are and what we are, whether it is being the next president of Kenya, whether it is orating in front of those hundreds of women, whether it is singing in front of that audience that needs to be inspired because they just went through heck, going through just day-to-day life, that it's the same courage, it's the same being, and that our stories are everyone's stories, and that our stories are the stories of every little girl that's growing up. It's that when we learn to honor what we are within and just bring that forward and say, I'm enough,
yes,
I am enough, and I am here, and I will be heard, and you will recognize what I bring to the table, and I am of value. And then what I have of value is worthy to be seen, heard, listened to, embraced, embodied. That this is what it is all about. And that we don't have to put people on pedestals, but that we can sit in circle, and I can look at you, Julliet, and I can look at you, Bukeka, and say, I am sitting with my sisters. I am sitting with my sisters, and we are all empowered. And I really want to impress upon this message to those who are listening, because all it takes is your courage and your strength to stand up in whatever that is, and that it is all worthy, and that it is all significant, and it is all important in the faces of no matter who is looking and who is judging and who is perceiving. And then that We are here and we're not going anywhere. We are here. So, I'm looking at us and I'm saying, we are sharing something really important here. We're sharing what it took in our childhoods and everything to cultivate where we are. And if you are one of those people where it's within you, but it's been stifled, and it's within you, and you haven't had the courage to bring it out, because nobody can do it for you. No one can take the step for you, and no one can take the risk for you or the strength for you. And don't think that we haven't fallen down in order to stand back up. So, what would you share with the studio audience that would say, reach deep and find it within you to make that choice? What would you share?
Well, I'll go ahead and start. What I would share is know your worth, that your worth is inherent, that there is nothing that can keep you from being worthy. Only your thoughts about who you are keeps you from having the experiences that you are worthy of having. It is not anything that you have to prove. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to take any kind of action that tells people I am worthy. As you stand where you are, as you sit where you are, as you in all of your what a friend of mine used to say, warts and all, right? We are worthy. And so with that, when people ask, well, what does it mean to be worthy? Especially when so many people feel a sense of worthlessness. What does it really mean? And really all it means is to just remember you as the person who you are whole in every way. It might not feel like it. It might not seem like it based on the situation that you're in right now. People may have told you you are not worthy. People may have even said you are worthless. But by the mere fact that you can breathe, that you can touch, that you can be in the skin that you're in, you are worthy of being your most magnificent self. And no thought that you have otherwise would ever change that.
That was beautiful, Bukeka. And what I could share is everybody has got a sense of gifts that they were born to. And everybody is a star. And everybody has been born by a mother. And everybody has got a chance in life. You don't have to think that you don't have a chance in life. And I say this because, I shared with you ladies that, my primary school, I was this child who was not expected to go to university, but I'm actually the child who also completed university. So I want to inspire every single person to understand that you can be what you want to be. You can be the gift and the dream that you aspire to be. You can be the voice that you want to be. You tell yourself the story, you tell yourself and look back in how you want to create your life. And it is a journey. I don't want to tell anybody it's not a journey. It is a journey. That is what is so special with a journey, because the journey has got a beginning and an end. And in every single thing that we do, it is the challenges that make us become better. So I want to take the position of challenges make us grow. Challenges allow us to be better people. Challenges allow us to support and create solutions. Challenges allow us to problem solve. Challenges allow us to think what could be done better. Challenges allows us to inspire other people. So I also want to take a position of understanding that we all have a sense of love. Nobody was born not to understand what love, we all can spread the gift of love with that. And that sense of spread of the gift of love is once you perceive it and you understand the sense of smiling, that kind of projection of smiling. And I take that because of my little project of smiling. Whenever I would see those women just smile, and they would take their money out and say, tomorrow, bring me my next mandazi. And this project just became bigger and bigger and bigger. And I would love to write a book just for that little project. I want to say that we are all gifted to add somebody else's life, to add value to someone else. There is the little things in life that we do that makes the biggest impact in the world. And so every single one of us is competent and is capable. And I want to add to what Bukeka is saying in adding value. So additional value that we all have that kind of sense of being able to be kind and be compassionate and be able to share whatever it is you have. We all have it, but it's how you detox yourself. It's how you invest in yourself. It is how you begin to appreciate the universe, that the universe has it for each and every one of us. So I want to say that the universe is here for all human beings. The universe is here for all citizens. The universe looks after us. The universe gives us beauty in a world that is embraced with different nationalities, different types of people from different backgrounds, different types of opportunities and different types of accessibility. But it is this a projection of thinking that some nations are not as good as others. So I want to leave people with a sense of a love, and I want to leave people with the spirit of allowing us to spread the love of our universe here today, and say that when we learn as people to respect each other, to find forgiveness in ourselves, to find the sense of saying the word sorry to each other, to find the sense of telling our world that we are sorry. We know that we have wronged you. If it's, for example, we haven't looked after a tree, it is my sense of pride as a woman, as a human being, as a person, to water you. If I have not recycled my plastic bottles, it is my sense of love that I will now begin to recycle that bottle. It is my sense of pride if I learn to be thoughtful to my planet. So I want to leave people with that kind of inspiration and say that the beginning of us to really love each other is being yourself, and being yourself means that you are the center of who you were created to be.
Wow.
Great.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to leave it with something really simple to finish it off. And I'm going to leave with something that I say all the time, which is dream a beautiful dream or you will be dreamt. Which is that if you don't hold a vision for yourself,
Yes.
then all you will do is live a life fulfilling what other people perceive you to be, judge you to be, expect you to be, and you will never be what you want to be.
Yes.
Dream a beautiful dream or you will be dreamt your whole life. And when you hold that vision, then you can make life a walk to that vision and you can fulfill it. But you have to hold it. You have to dream the beautiful dream for yourself. And on that note, this has been another episode of BE Empowered. Oh my gosh, thank you, Julliet. Thank you, Bukeka. I love it, I love it, I love it. Thank you so much for being here. And we are just so grateful for having you. And we hope that our audience has had the opportunity to really get to know you, Julliet.
We hope you enjoyed the show. We look forward to bringing you more shows in the future. To learn more about our co-hosts, check out their websites, www.bukekastyle.com and www.enolia.live. Learn about their masterclasses for conscious transformation, their personal coaching, along with their international retreats and expeditions. Are you an entrepreneur looking for another line of income? Check out www.planetmarketing.com/Enolia and www.planetmarketing.com/bblakemore. We are here to transform your life. Thank you for listening.